What's happening, Hardscapers? This is episode 28 of the How to Hardscape Podcast, where we talk to you about how you can start and grow your hardscaping business. And today we're joined by Tim Fahndrich. He is the co-founder and CEO of Hardscape Marketer and WorldLocal.io, and the host of the Digital Contractor Show on Turf's Up Radio. And he is here to talk today with us about dialing in your online marketing. So without further ado, here is episode 3 of the Marketing Week with Tim Fahndrich. Today we're joined by Tim Fahndrich. He is the co-founder and CEO of Hardscape Marketer and WorldLocal.io. That's WHIRLOCAL.io. And we're going to be talking about that today, as well as some marketing for hardscapers. Tim, thank you so much for joining us here.
Well, thanks for having me on the show.
I appreciate your time. Tim, why don't we just get started by getting to know a little bit more about yourself and your background in the industry. Can you give our audience a rundown about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've actually been around the green industry for a long time. Starting in high school, I did what many young, enterprising, entrepreneurial youngsters do, and I did some yard work for local companies or local couples, in our neighborhood, and that actually led to me joining two of my brothers in the landscape industry, in a landscape business, and I did that. We were a design build maintenance firm. Did a lot of hardscapes, et cetera, but I was part of that company for 14 years. And during that time, we also we co-founded one of the first .coms in the industry. We were an early pioneer in that, where we were basically bringing together both e-commerce sales and connections to landscapers and garden centers across the country to kind of serve consumers in that realm. But like a lot of companies did, we ran out of money and hit the .com brick wall in early 2001 and ended up selling that to a company out of Washington. But yeah, that's the brief synopsis of my green industry background. And we started digital marketing agency 12 years ago, and kind of based on getting back to where I was loving things in the internet marketing world, and we actually started Hardscape Marketer last year to be able to focus specifically on and serve the hardscape contractors and outdoor living contractors.
Amazing. And that's what I want to get in today with you, is the marketing side of the business, because with us as hardscapers and just starting out as owner-operators, we've got our hands full with being a jack of all trades in terms of running a business, knowing our trade, but also, running the marketing behind things. And it can be a handful until maybe you get to a point where you can hire somebody like yourselves, Hardscape Marketer. But getting started, in this world of marketing that encapsulates so much these days, where should a hardscaper start?
Yeah, I think the first place that you really want to start and dial in before you do a lot of marketing is really what is your brand story and narrative and messaging. And that's kind of the foundation then for everything else on a marketing standpoint. If you think about the idea of, answering the questions, who do you serve? Who is your ideal customer? What's your ideal project size? Do you do residential? Do you do commercial? Do you do $100,000 projects, or do you do $10,000 to $20,000 projects? Dialing in again who your customer is and how you come alongside them as part of your brand story and serve them, and basically determining and defining that is so important as you get started, because then you can kind of again market from there, and it lays a great foundation moving forward. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's kind of deciding what you're going to position yourself as a business owner, like who you're going after and everything like that. But when you are a business owner and you're just starting out, and maybe you've never owned a business before and you're just getting into hardscaping, you want to start this hardscaping business, it can be tough to be like, this is the customer that I want, because when you're starting out all starry-eyed, you want every customer. So right. In terms of, narrowing down that customer focus when you're just starting out, or maybe when you've already been operating for a few years, what goes into narrowing down that customer, that ideal customer that you want to serve?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And the tendency is, and we've all probably experienced it and seen it, where you're just starting out and you say, well, you know what, no job is too small or too big, or we do it all. Mm-hmm. And you've seen that probably as well. And the reality is that as that statement is put out there, it's actually can be harmful, because then you get pulled in a lot of different directions. And so starting to dial that in, and you may need to do it all for a season to be able to kind of better understand, especially if you're just getting started, right? But to better understand, well, this is the sweet spot that I love, and I love working with this customer avatar, meaning, this particular type of customer. And so again, you may need some of that in the beginning to kind of get that experience and to be able to dial that in. But then the sooner that you can dial that in, the better as you continue to grow and scale your company.
When it comes to Hardscape Marketer, are you guys helping out your clients both on the online aspect of marketing as well as the offline?
So there's a little bit of a mix. We're a digital marketing agency, but again, some of this kind of framework. So we've developed a framework that has served us well, served our customers well. It's really helped generate millions of dollars in revenue for our customers and organizations, and so it is a bit of a mix, but it's kind of three parts. It's presence, reputation, and reach. And again, it has a digital focus, but back to the kind of the brand story and messaging that you put out there and developing that whole thing. That's pervasive on any of your marketing, whether it's online or off. And so we can help, craft that story, and help people get to that, dial in that messaging as well. And then the rest of our focus is typically digital.
Getting into the digital aspects of getting into hardscape marketing, where do you point your customers in the direction of in terms of, say, a social platform, or in the terms of say getting reviews online? Like what do you do for your clients?
That is a broad question, but I'll narrow it down.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's unpack that a little bit. And let me back up, just if you don't mind, Michael,
Yep.
To back up to the branding and narrative. I would just throw out a recommendation if you haven't heard or picked up a copy of the book Story Brand by Donald Miller, Creating a Story Brand. That's a great book. And it helps work through that process of helping you understand, who your market is, how you can come alongside as a guide and make your customer the hero. It's a fascinating story or look into branding. So just put that plug in. I don't get anything out of that, but it's a great process. So then to unpack the rest of your question there. So, we're really, again, kind of starting on the presence side to what social media sites. Social media is pervasive across all of these kind of the framework: presence, reputation, and reach. So what does your social media presence look like? And we're really seeing, of course, the 800-pound gorilla in terms of, social media, consumer driven is Facebook, and it fits a demographic that is good. In terms of, the customers you typically want to reach, they have that spendable income, et cetera. But we're seeing a lot of action on Instagram because it's so visual. In the hardscape industry, we have such an ability to present beautiful pictures. And that's what's so cool. You can both document the process and then basically show off the transformation, of an old boring backyard to a beautiful, backyard kitchen or outdoor kitchen or lighting or anything that that you're focusing on. So, Instagram visually is really providing some great traction for our customers and those in the industry for sure. So that's kind of on the social media presence side. Does that help, or you want to unpack that some more?
Yeah, let's get into that a little bit more. In terms of Facebook and Instagram, two major players in the industry for any online marketing agency and for hardscapers to get involved into to be attracting their clients. But you hear more and more about, say, a platform like TikTok coming to play, or even LinkedIn is a big player now. But are these areas that hardscapers should be focusing on to attract their ideal clients?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Let's talk about LinkedIn for a second. First of all, so I think LinkedIn is a fantastic platform, and feel free to if you want to connect with me on LinkedIn. I think it's a fantastic platform, particularly if you are doing commercial and you're dealing with property managers or architects or various different people that would be on a professional site like that. It's a great way to connect. And so, it's definitely a powerful platform depending on, your niche and your sweet spot. It's going to be a little more difficult, not quite as clear of a path to connect with your ideal customer on LinkedIn, if you're doing mostly residential. But again, it does give a lot of opportunity. So definitely I would, again, recommend LinkedIn as well. TikTok is an interesting animal. And I think, I think there's a lot of talk about it for sure. And I think the early adopters are jumping on it. And it really just depends on, on where you have bandwidth. Do you have the bandwidth to jump in and do these quick little videos? Do you have the entertaining presence that, that TikTok is really all about? And, how do you work that into your marketing? I think it's still fairly early for us, in the industry to jump onto TikTok. It doesn't mean that in a year from now, it might be 6 months or a year. It might just be, going gangbusters for the industry. I think it's still relatively early, but again, that's just somewhat of a perception on my part.
TikTok is more of a younger audience right now, so it's got some time before I guess an ideal client is finally an avid user of the platform, as I guess Instagram and Facebook is more tuned towards, right?
Yeah, for sure. And that's really the defining thing there is think about where your customers are. Like I've always talked about, you want to be where your customers are and think about that ideal demographic. Again, dialing in, who your avatar is, who you're serving, and really dialing that in. What kind of age group are they in? Are they in the 40 to 65 age group? Do they have, 100,000 or more in income? I mean, where are they hanging out? Do they have spendable income is what you want because then they have the money to buy your hardscape services, right? So I don't know that, again, I mean, TikTok is growing in terms of audience, but it's primarily if you look at their demographics, it's primarily a younger audience at this point.
Getting back to Instagram and Facebook, creating content is one thing for those platforms, but do you recommend running ads on these platforms to get to your ideal audience?
Yeah, I definitely do. And that kind of ties into what we call the reach component of our framework. So presence, reputation, and reach. In other words, how are you reaching more customers? And there's kind of two different aspects of that when it comes to social media specifically. One, of course, is the organic reach that you get with, posting and creating content, and the whole content is king concept and creating that following. The other thing, though, is definitely a paid social advertising. And you can use Facebook and Instagram as an advertising tool. You actually manage the ads in the same place and decide if you want to be on both as you're delivering your ads. And you can, again, dial into geographical areas that you want to promote your presence in and reach more people that you're not going to necessarily get organically. So we think they go hand in hand, and it's a great way to go.
And what about Google Ads? Have you experimented with those in the past and compared them to, say, the results of a Facebook, Instagram ad?
Yeah, definitely. And, so both of them serve, there's kind of 4 different areas that we look at in terms of paid advertising, particularly on the digital side. Again, we're not talking radio or TV or billboards or something like that. But, specifically in the digital world, we talk about 4 different types. And one is the search, which is more of a Google ad, a keyword search. Another is social, so Facebook, Instagram, et cetera. Display ads are the ads that, are on when you go to visit your favorite news site or ESPN or, something along those sites, the ads that are placed on those sites. And then kind of encompassing all of this is the retargeting aspect. So coming back to kind of the search, the thing with search, which is really cool, we know that when somebody is typing in a specific keyword term, and that's, they're searching that on Google or Bing or whatever that might be. Google owns the lion's share, of course, of the search market. But when they're typing in that that specific keyword, we call that buyer's intent. So, typically they are somebody that's actually looking for, let's say, hardscape contractor near me. It's one of the most popular terms. Hardscape contractor near me, hardscape contractor, city state, patio install, landscape contractor, those different search intents, because that's what they're looking for and they actually have a need. So, definitely that can be very helpful to put yourself in a position to be found with those Google ads. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely. And if you had one choice of a platform to advertise on, and including offline, any advertisement offline, what would your main focus be on? What would you choose, or what would you direct your client towards?
Yeah, I think it probably depends a little bit on budget. Certainly, if you had the budget to put towards Google Ads, and to really a budget that would move the dial, and we can talk about what that looks like. But I would probably start there just from a standpoint of moving the dial in the need, or in the realm of finding those search intent or buyer's intent keywords and getting in front of that. It is more expensive typically to have somebody manage that for you than starting out on social advertising, for example, Facebook, Instagram. You can start with a much better or a much smaller budget on those platforms. The difference is, like, Google search ads, for example, is more buyer keywords. Facebook, Instagram is more demographics. And so the ads are approached a little differently. So depending on your budget, we typically, to really move the dial, we typically recommend starting with a $1,000 a month budget for the actual ad spend. So that may be out of reach initially for, just somebody getting started or whatever, on Google. But if that turns into a $50,000 project and you can rinse and repeat that, then it can be very well worth it and a good return on investment.
Have you found a difference in the type of customer that each platform kind of brings in terms of, say, a budget that customer comes in with, or the type of customer, whether it's like a tire kicker or like a hot lead? Have you found a difference in terms of a customer that comes from Instagram, customer that comes from Facebook, a customer that comes from Google, or a customer that comes from an offline source?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think the reality is you've got tire kickers probably in all platforms, but that's where some of the crossover marketing comes in. So if they, the more you can kind of get in front of them on multiple platforms, the less they become a tire kicker, because they're actually, they become more and more interested based on the content and what they're seeing. We talk about the buyer's journey. And, buyer's journey starts when somebody has, they become aware of your company and they have a need or are interested. So they start doing research, on you. And the more qualified you can kind of move them down the path of that buyer's journey, the less tire kickers you're going to get. So it really does depend on kind of where they are. I think all platforms kind of have, they have tire kickers, but the more you can qualify them in terms of the content that you put out. For example, I was speaking with a hardscape contractor the other day, and he was amazed. And so, speaking of another digital marketing platform, he was amazed at meeting with customers, and they're watching his videos on YouTube. And basically, by the time he gets to the meeting, they've got picked out 3 or 4 different things that they want specifically for him to install because they've watched content on YouTube. And so, being able to qualify him in that process, I think, is a powerful way to do it.
Customer is looking up a hardscape company, and they come across, say, one of their online websites that they're signed up for, or their own website, and they see, the first thing that they typically might look for is testimonials or reviews. So
right.
What do you recommend hardscapers to focus in on in terms of getting those reviews? How do they get those reviews, and where do they want those reviews?
Yeah, so another great question. This is an area we've worked a ton on, in our business, and to help our customers do this. Again, in the buyer's journey, one of the first things they look at is those reviews. And even if you think about, if somebody is asking around, hey, I want to do a new patio or I want to do a new kitchen, and they're asking around at work, for example, for different referrals, one of the very first things we do is we open up, we pull out our phones and brand search, for that referral or the referrals that are coming up. And if consumers don't like what they see in that brand search, at a glance, whether it's a, low star rating or not very many reviews, et cetera, they're going to move right on to a competitor until they find somebody that they're comfortable with. And that's statistically, 80+% of consumers actually trust online reviews as much or more as that personal recommendation from a friend, which is astonishing, right? It's not very intuitive, but that's exactly what we do in today's online world. So in terms of kind of, where you want to focus on getting reviews, and a strategy to do that, I mean, we've always believed several key things. One is that it's really important to be proactive. You don't want to leave reviews to chance. We're not in the restaurant business. I was speaking with a friend who is this morning, actually, and, they've got 2,000 Google reviews and they don't have to ask at all. And they've got a good score, but, they've got a lot of traffic. Hardscapers, we don't do that kind of volume. So we have to be very proactive to ask people and make it really simple to leave us a review. And then the question comes, well, where do we want reviews? Well, our opinion is that Google is still the most important place to get a review because your Google listing is like the most important listing on the web. And then, after that, it looks, then you look at places like Facebook to get a review. If you're on Houzz and you're posting, really nice pictures on Houzz, that's another good place, industry specific, to get reviews. Depending on your business model, if you're on Home Advisor and you're, kind of working that model, that's, of course, another good place. And then, the reality is, though, you want to get reviews on a wide spectrum, and make it easy for your customer to leave a review where they're most comfortable doing so. For example, if you only ask, I had a conversation with a customer recently, and they're in the landscape space, and they were only wanting to get Google reviews and not, and basically if somebody's not willing to leave a Google review, well, we don't want it. The challenge with that is, depending on your audience, is they may not have a Google account and they can't leave a review without a Google account. Maybe they're still using AOL. Believe it or not, people still are. So, so you want to make it easy to leave a review where they're comfortable doing so. The other thing too is, so they may not have an account on Google or Facebook or, Houzz or something along those lines, or they, maybe they just put in a $100,000 outdoor kitchen and they're proud of it, but they don't necessarily want to, spread the word, with their full name on Google, for example, or Facebook that they hired you. Maybe they have confidential, that maybe they just don't want to broadcast to the world. So make it easy to leave reviews where your customer is most comfortable doing so. Does that help?
Absolutely, it does. And thank you so much for everything that you're providing our audience here with this knowledge and this insight, because it goes a long way with operating a business, any business, and coming to that and creating an online presence. You got the we'relocal.io website, and for I'm sure some of our audience, we just don't know exactly what that is and what that can do for our businesses. So can you give our audience, a little bit of a rundown about what is We're Local?
So We're Local is something we developed. It's a proprietary neighborhood marketing platform that basically helps hardscapers and other local businesses grow revenue by leveraging reviews, recommendations, and referrals. We've also built content and social media tools, sales funnels, and marketing automation, and really local SEO into the platform as well. So we're transforming how local marketing gets done by having a platform or a profile on We're Local and really utilizing the different tools. We know you want to be a local market leader, whether you're just starting out. I mean, if you're getting really established or whatever. We know most of our customers and most people that are getting out there, they want to be local market leaders, but it's hard to know kind of how to know which solutions work and which ones are just a waste of time. So that's where we come in with We're Local. We're not a big billion-dollar bully or anything like that. We're just a local marketing agency with landscape background experience. We know how your business works and what it's like to wear many, many hats, as you mentioned early on. And so that's where we provided the same proven marketing framework with presence, reputation, and reach, the different things that you can do on the platform to really, uniquely designed to serve your local marketing needs and be able to generate more revenue.
If contractors out there, they don't have a website, is We're Local a good replacement for, say, investing the money that would be needed to be invested into a website? Is that like a good place to, start your online presence to kind of market your services?
Yeah, we always still like to recommend, having a full-blown website, and yet, again, budget or just getting started or whatever, your We're Local profile can actually serve as a mobile-friendly website, until you get there. And quite frankly, we're building tools to enhance that even more. But because you can use it as a mobile-friendly website, and it's a great place to start without the upfront cost of having a company build one for you.
Hardscape Marketer and We're Local, it kind of goes in hand, right? The services that you offer for this online marketing, getting your brand out there sort of thing?
Yeah, definitely. So the way to kind of think about it is We're Local is our marketing platform, and we've got people all over the place are joining and taking advantage of that. And then Hardscape Marketer comes in if we add additional services like managing your Google Ads or building full websites, doing branding, et cetera. So that's kind of the marriage between the two brands.
Awesome. And is there anything else you want to leave us with before we close out this interview in terms of what, say, a hardscape marketer can do for a hardscaping business, and on any spectrum of, just getting started to already, have lots of business coming in, but just want to refine that business and find the right customer, or in terms of We're Local and what that can be done, how businesses can leverage that in terms of a hardscaping business?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and we're getting ready to do actually a challenge called the Reputation Roadmap, specifically kind of geared to the tools around We're Local, but really dialing in, how do you get reviews? Reviews are a huge decision-making factor for consumers. And then how do you get more recommendations with other local business partners? Let's say you're in hardscaping, but you've got somebody and you don't do maintenance. Maybe you could refer back and forth with a lawn maintenance company, or somebody that does concrete, or somebody that does countertops. You can build those relationships and really then of local businesses that like and trust, and then refer each other back and forth. So there's a great way to leverage the platform to get more customers and really dial in, again, kind of landing more ideal customers, and be able to dial in that marketing and the messaging as well. And then as far as, as your budget increases and you want to grow and scale, beyond just getting started, that's where, the hungrier machine you create, the more likely you are going to, want to do things like Google Ads and really kind of push that budget out. So you're feeding and keeping your crews busy all year round.
And Tim, you have your own show on Turfs Up Radio. Can you talk to us a little bit about more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we interview top industry professionals from around the country on Turfs Up Radio. It's the Digital Contractor Show. We air on Sunday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then it's available on all the podcast channels after that time for replay, and we also put it on our social media channels as well. Not only audio, but we also repurpose the video in various forms.
Awesome. Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and you're doing great stuff with your podcast.
Hey, I appreciate it. And is there anything else you want to let our audience know where they can find you, Hardscape Marketer, we'relocal.io? Where do you want to point our audience to as we round out this interview?
Yeah, I mean, so a couple things. I'd love to have you connect with me on LinkedIn, Tim Fahndrich, Fahndrich. Happy to connect with you and connecting with landscape and hardscape professionals all over the country. Also, we'relocal.io/get-started takes you directly to kind of how to get there. It's WHIR, as you mentioned, WHIRlocal.io/get-started, or hardscapemarketer.com.
Thank you for listening to today's podcast episode. Visit us at howtohardscape.com for more information on this subject. Let us know what you want to learn about in future episodes by reaching out to us on our social channels. We're at howtohardscape wherever you can find us, and contact@howtohardscape.com. We'd love it if you subscribe to this show, left us a rating and review. This really helps us get this podcast out there and to get more guests onto the show to share their valuable insights with us. And we look forward to meeting with you next week on the How to Hardscape podcast.